There we go.
Ba,
Now,
ba,
now
ba,
it's up.
ba.
Yeah, that's good. Okay.
Hello. Oh, I can
Alrighty.
hear myself. Weird.
I don't know. I'm gonna call Justin and see if he's getting on. I
I
don't
just
know.
got a Steam notification that he's playing Bloons Tower Defense 6.
That Justin is?
Vindication, yeah.
That's him.
It certainly is.
Voice message system.
Okay, that's not
The
him.
guy doesn't
Whoa.
food.
Are you in here?
I told you I was gonna be till after 6 because I got home at 4 and I had to make food.
Okay, well that's fine. I just wanted to make sure you're coming.
And messaging me on all these friggin' different things that I'm not sitting at.
Yeah, I mean that's okay.
Okay.
Let me just. I gotta resize this. One sec. Boom. Okay. So we're here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Welcome to the stream. Probably just you two at the moment.
I think so.
Yeah.
Wait, is it like a Twitch stream?
We're on YouTube.
Ah.
Yeah. So, be honest with me, Justin. Did you prepare anything?
No.
Okay. All right. Liam apparently got a few things together. So.
I don't even know what we were doing.
A couple articles open.
So yeah, welcome to the stream. We are going to be debating if violent video games can cause violence in the real world. Or just discussing it if we all agree. I don't know.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know. Do we want to do like a opening kind of thing? Like just say what your opinion is and if you want to introduce
Sure.
yourself, whatever you want to be referred to as on the stream.
Giga chat. No.
Yeah, I mean, sure, dude.
Not gonna do that.
All right. Do you want me to go first?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay. So, violent video games have been a very contentious topic since they were first created. From games like Wolfenstein in the 90s showing near 8-bit blood spurting out of enemies to Assassin's Creed in the 2000s showing decapitations and many other similar acts, all the way to the year 2022 where we are still doing studies and talking about the effects playing these games talking about the effects that games like these have on the minds of its players. I want to preface this by saying I don't hate video games, nor do I think that people shouldn't be playing them as I am an avid video game enjoyer myself. However, I do think it's important to acknowledge the potential aggressiveness that video games can cause when people aren't self-aware. I can say from experience that almost everyone I knew as a kid who played video games like Assassin's Creed often were much more violent, more likely to outburst or hit things when angry. We would learn moves and fetishize things from these games that would desensitize us from what a serious thing violence is in real life. I think children are most susceptible to this influence because their brains are still forming and haven't learned enough about the world to realize the influence these games have on their response to things. I do have studies and things we can go through once we start the discussion, but I just want to get some of my anecdotes out there while I can speak long form. So, just to be clear, my thesis is that violent video games do increase violence, at least in the short term. Chronic use of them can lead to a higher likelihood of criminality, and children are more likely to have a more hostile response to things when exposed to violent video games. So, yeah.
All right.
Which one of you?
That was a lot more formal than I was.
Yeah, I'm over here like I didn't even study. I just got off work and had some food.
That's okay. I mean, you can just like say what your opinion is. It doesn't have to be that long or anything.
Do you want to go first, Justin, or?
I can say words. I don't know if they'll be good.
I mean, you can just say what you think. It doesn't have to be anything special.
So, I, as also an avid video game player, I don't think that I violently outburst at people. Having played a lot of violent video games myself. So I would partially disagree with yours in that I feel if there aren't other factors, violent video games don't increase the level of violence in people.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
For once, I think I actually kind of agree with Justin. I also don't believe that violent video games increase somebody's violent tendencies or somebody's tendency to act violently in the real world.
Okay.
I think that some people, especially when you're younger, are violent because I think everybody's a little bit aggressive when they're a teenager, what with hormones and all that happening. But I don't think that violent video games, while they may make people aggressive at like in the moment, I don't think they increase the likelihood of somebody to commit a violent act.
Okay. That's the end, I guess?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
All right, good stream. See you guys later.
Yeah.
Yep, that's our
Bye.
opinions. We're done.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, like,
So now we can go into like the open discussion, where we all just kind of chat.
Sure.
well, I feel one of the factors that definitely affects how violent or non-violent people are with them is their ability to or not ability, their like as an 18-year-old you can just go buy a video game and you have the sense to not go murder people because you know that's wrong. Whereas like an 8-year-old kid who doesn't think out their actions or know that their actions have consequences, if they're playing something like GTA, for instance, they're just going to yell and scream because they're a kid and they don't know any better. And they
Yeah.
would be more likely to even just say they would act violently.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of my point, is especially about kids, is that kids don't really know how to differentiate what is like they take in all the stimulus in the world and they mimic that because like that's all they have, right? Like they don't have any context, they don't have enough experiences with the world to ground them in what like a normal person acts like. So you have, your parents, you see them act a certain way, and then you have maybe some friends, you see them act a certain way, and then you maybe have a video game and you see them act a certain way. And if you're like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, you probably don't have you probably haven't met hundreds of people like we have, right? Like once you're in your 20s, you've met hundreds of people and you can probably make a better judgment about like, okay, I see one person acting this way in a video game. I've seen hundreds and hundreds of people. I know how they act in different situations. So I know that is not the way that I should act. Right?
I think that there are obviously some things that regardless of your age, aren't good things to do. Like when I was 5 years old, I knew it wasn't a good idea to kill somebody.
Fair. Fair.
I think that's a bit of a weird point. I see where you're going. I think that's just like a bit of a weird thing trying to use like the age as like, oh well, when you're younger you don't know better. Well, I think to an extent, like maybe not like, hey, I'm not gonna go beat up all of my friends for their money like in Grand Theft Auto, but I know that getting a firearm out isn't a good idea.
Yeah, but you have to remember that like the situation that we're in, like our lives, like we're not surrounded by people who have weapons and stuff like that. Like we wouldn't pick up a firearm because like probably I would imagine nobody around us has firearms or uses them in a violent way or anything like that. But I'm not necessarily just talking about shooting people. Like
Yeah, I know. That was just like the prevalent point that came to mind.
yeah,
Like it's an easy like
it's
example.
an extreme example. Yeah, it's something
Yeah.
that you can use to like make a point. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, but have you ever heard like the point of where like a lot of people say this kids are kind of like sociopaths?
Yeah, children are a little bit sociopath.
Yeah, and I think the reason for that is that like empathy isn't something that we're born with. It's something that we're taught through like society, right? Like
I think
social
that's all. I
interactions.
think that's a whole other discussion. I think that leans more towards nature versus nurture, which could
Yes,
end up being sorry, not to like cut you off, just to like I feel like if that's like where we're gonna end up going, we could easily get off topic.
true. But I'm using that as like a way of
Yeah, no,
saying that
yeah.
kids are more susceptible to stimulus, right? Because if a kid is a sociopath, then like your point about saying that, uh, kids think murder is bad, for example, probably isn't like valid, right? Because like kids might not, they might think murder is bad because they've been told murder is bad, but I don't know if you're just born knowing that murder is bad. Like I think you're probably born like an animal thinking that, you took my thing, I'm going to hit you, like that kind of thing, right?
Hmm. Sorry, Rylan, my girlfriend got home
Okay, I'm sorry.
from work. Um, yeah, again, like I think that that does play more into like a whole separate kind of argument. I do believe that people do have a sort of a set of ingrained morality.
Mm.
I mean, I don't know, but like just from my personal experiences. Oh, excuse me. I know I was always very conscious of how my actions affected other people around me, and like what others thought of me and such like that. So I think I guess just personally, like I think I feel at least like I did have at least some sense of well, I get yeah, empathy, kind of just from the get go.
Okay.
That could have been for multiple reasons, like because I had like two brothers around me a lot of the time, and who knows, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's true. Like if you're surrounded by like positive figures, you could
Well,
like receive that at a very young
didn't say they were all
age.
positive.
Well, I mean, not saying every like experience is positive, but like I would imagine those people probably at least didn't intentionally do terrible things all the time.
No, no, no.
Um, yeah, so that probably would help. Like if you're raised a proper way, like it probably does have a lot to do with like nurture. Um,
Again, yeah.
yeah, yeah. But like obviously, so Justin, you said like with no contributing outside factors, um, you don't think that video games would cause violence, but the reality is that there isn't a situation with no outside contributing factors, right? Like everybody's raised by people, surrounded by people, and the video games would like be a make or break thing in their aggressiveness or violent nature, right? It would be a contributing factor, not the only thing.
See that a little bit. I know, like when I was a kid, we would play like sometimes we'd play like I don't know, like cops and robbers or whatever with friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we never really did anything like violence with the intention of being violent. It was always like if something happened and somebody got hurt, it was almost always a non-intentional.
Right. Yeah.
It was usually resolved with uh, just like apologizing and whatnot.
Yeah. I feel like you were surrounded by like good people by the sounds of it. Like when I was a kid, like the people that I hung out with, like thinking about some people in my family, some people, like some of the friends I had when I was, I don't know, probably like 10 years old, something like that. You know, we were super into like Assassin's Creed, for example, right?
Yeah,
Thinking
I
of
guess,
like
yeah.
Assassin's Creed 2, 3, and or two, sorry, two Brotherhood and Revelations, I think.
Let me Google it.
That would be the Ezio trilogy, I believe, right?
A lot of games.
Yeah, there's like
Oh my
there's
God,
like
there's
20
a lot.
Assassin's Creed games at this
There's
point.
there's 45.
45. Oh my god. Okay,
Yeah,
didn't think
there's
there
a
was
lot
that
of
many.
side games apparently. At least those 45 results on Google.
Okay then. Well, anyway,
Uh,
the
yeah,
early ones, like
Assassin's Creed, Assassin's Creed 2, and Assassin's Creed 3. The first three were the Ezio trilogy. Yeah.
the first one I think was
Maybe
Altair,
not the.
I think, but it was the second, third, and fourth game ever made of Assassin's Creed. So we were super into those games, and like we would, uh, you know, like obviously they're pretty graphic in the way that, like, you know, you stab people in the head and through the bottom of their jaw into their head, stuff like that. Blood spurts everywhere, stuff like that. And I just like I really remember as a kid like glorifying that kind of stuff. Like we would do parkour because we wanted to act like them. We would you know, pretend to like friggin' execute each other and like
Yep.
make the stabbing sounds, stuff like that. And
No, yeah,
then
I'm with you there. I'm with you there.
yeah, but it's not just that, but it's also like we would also fight. Like we would, you know, one time somebody hit me in the back of the head with a 2x4, uh,
Oh
stuff like
Lord.
that. Like we've, you know, we would punch and hit and throw each other and things like that, right? And it was worse when we got angry, which that's another thing we can get into. But yeah,
That happens.
what
Yeah.
what do you think about what I just said?
Yeah. Okay. So I never experienced anybody getting hit with like a 2x4. Um. I certainly, had my fair share of play fights and whatnot with my brothers
Yeah.
and fights. Um, oh, excuse me. Uh, and definitely, people got hurt sometimes, but I don't think that was ever really the express intention to like actually seriously hurt somebody.
I would also bring up the point of you mentioned that you were kids playing Assassin's Creed. However, Assassin's Creed being an M-rated game, I feel that's one of the big factors is people allowing their kids to be exposed to those violent thoughts rather than the video games themselves giving it's the ability of like access to them.
Okay. Okay.
Because an M-rated game isn't going to let the people that should be playing it, like, it's not going to make those people act out on those actions. A kid would because they think it's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so you're kind of making a prescription for like harder,
Prescription.
yeah, like a prescription for a
No, no, your word choice makes sense. I was just being a dick.
a more strict uh law against like kids buying video games, basically. Stuff like
Yeah,
that,
because
right? So it would be more like a liquor law, right? Where it would be like if you sold a video game that was rated M to somebody underage, maybe you have to provide ID or something, whereas right now you don't really have to. Like, you can
You
walk into
definitely
Walmart.
used to, right?
Did you used to?
I feel like you used to. Maybe not provide ID, but you definitely there was definitely a point in
There
time.
actually, I do remember. It was somewhere in the States on one of the band trips. I wanted to buy a game, and they wouldn't let me buy it because I was underage.
I think I remember that. Yeah.
Okay. Did they ID you, or was it like they just looked at you and were like, you look underage?
You look underage, and then I had someone else that was old enough buy it for me because
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
they were old enough.
that is the other thing. Like with restricting access, is it's very easy to get around it. Because I know even like in our hometown, um, when we were younger, there were a few times that we went to buy adult or M-rated games or whatnot, and you'd go with a parent and you'd be like, "Can you please get me this game?" And then you just go somewhere else while they got by it. And with today's with how the internet is, like it's super easy to just steal a game if you really want to play it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, of course. I mean, people can break the law to do things. I don't think that's in question, but
No, yeah, it's just like those. There are a lot of contributing factors to that make it difficult to try and restrict something like a video game,
yeah.
like any content, really.
Would that be any different than like saying that alcohol should be legal for everybody because like somebody can just go in and buy you beer?
Definitely, because you can't download a beer.
You wouldn't download a car.
Yeah,
True.
yeah. My point standing though, like obviously, sometimes people will, purchase alcohol for underage folks, even though they shouldn't. But it's a lot. I mean, for one, people know that alcohol can have proven like detrimental effects to like a developing brain. So like there's that, and for two, like I said, you can't download a beer.
Right. I mean, obviously, we're arguing, or I'm arguing anyway, that video games also have a negative, detrimental effect to young persons' development.
Yeah, but
as well.
I mean, yeah, more that I mean more like alcohol can like physically hamper
Yeah,
the
Right.
development.
I would agree with that point that that's why the ratings are there because they're not meant for people that are young age. So I would put not the blame on the video game itself. I would put it onto the people who provided
Oh,
the video game.
yeah, definitely. If you're buying your children video games that aren't rated for them, like it's just like with a movie, you should, you know, supervise that.
Like you don't take a 2-year-old. I mean, a 2-year-old, I guess, is too young. You wouldn't take a 5-year-old into like a Freddy Krueger movie.
I mean,
Yeah. Hopefully, people don't. I mean, I'm sure they do, but
But like that
should.
aspect is just like people would, but I wouldn't blame the Freddy Krueger movie because someone brought a 5-year-old in.
True.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's a certain point where it's
Like the people who made it have done all they can to make sure that it's not like going to be used by the wrong or viewed by the wrong people.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're agreeing then that violent video games that are rated M or even T potentially, if it's a very young person, can be harmful to their mental development. It sounds like, because if you're saying that,
Yes, I agree to that point that it's
Yeah.
harmful to their mental thing, but I don't think it's the video game that we should be putting the blame on the video games. It should be going on the people who
Sure.
provide those video games to their kids or whoever.
Okay. All right, Liam, would you agree with that?
Well, if I would say that video games can hamper the. I'm trying to think about a way to word this properly. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I don't think that violent video games necessarily would say, okay, say you had person. I don't think person playing violent video game as a child would make them like a violent adult. Do you know what I mean? Like, okay, so if a person was going to grow up to be like just like a regular non-violent person, I don't think them playing a violent video game in their childhood would change that necessarily.
So okay, so yeah, but do you think it is a contributing factor? Like like I said earlier, like yeah, if you take out all other factors, probably I would guess it doesn't affect it. Maybe
I
it does, but I don't know.
I
But
would
if you
say
have it
no.
with other things as well, right?
I would say that video games by them. I'd say that video games by themselves don't cause violence in adults. I think that perhaps some of the communities that can be developed around the video games can cause people to be more aggressive, but I would like to believe that that doesn't make people just like aggressively violent adults.
Okay. All right. So so I'll probably ask this again. Do
Yeah,
you think it contributes to it, or do you think
right.
that
I
or
would
do you
like
think that
to
it
say
doesn't cause it? Because you keep saying it doesn't cause it, but like I'm not saying that it 100% is responsible for, but does it increase the level of aggression or violence?
I'd like to say no. I think that's the point I'm gonna stay with right now. I think I'm gonna say no. Are you? What's up? You okay?
Okay.
Wow, girlfriend's standing in the doorway looking at me. It's okay. I just want to make sure everything is alright.
So then the second thing you said, kids. You don't think that it causes it in adults. Do you mean that like if somebody plays it through their childhood and then becomes an adult, it no longer has an effect? Or do you mean that if somebody who has never played a video game plays a video game when they're 22, it wouldn't affect them?
I think that definitely, if somebody that never played video games played a video game when they were a developed adult, they wouldn't just instantly become violent.
No.
And I'd like to believe, I'd like to say, I'm gonna say, obviously not definitively, but that playing playing video games throughout your childhood while you're growing up doesn't make you a violent person.
Okay. So you're saying it has little to no effect.
I'd say little, yeah, I'd say little to no effect. I think that's a better way to word it.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that the human the psychology of a person is so complex that it's something like that where the majority of people, obviously there are always outliers. You know, there are people who are going to get super aggressive. There are going to be people that are be like the opposite. There's outliers as everything. But I don't think that. I think that just because you were playing violent video games growing up, doesn't mean you're gonna go out and you're gonna get in fights all the time or anything like that. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah. So, are we on a scale here, like of how much, or is it just like any amount you don't think has an effect? So, like if somebody plays like 8 hours of a violent video game every day, or like 6 hours or whatever.
I'd say that it's not like a scale. I'd say it's like a binary, not a scale.
Okay, so you would say that it has no effect no matter how much you play.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Okay, so I don't know. Do we want to get into some studies then and see? You said you had a couple of articles. Do you want to? I can present some studies, or you can present some articles.
Sure. If you want to go first.
Sure.
The study I would like to use is that none of my friends who play violent video games have committed violent crimes.
I mean, that's good. Um,
And if they have, they're probably not my friend.
so let me just see here. So this first study was in 2019, so fairly recent.
Like 8 years ago.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It shows that video game play is associated with increased aggression in the player, and it documents that others who are connected to that player might also be affected by the aggression of that player, even when controlling for their own amount of violent video game play. So somebody who doesn't play video games and is friends with somebody who does play video games can feel more aggressive because of the aggression of a person playing a violent video game, is what this study shows, or concluded, I suppose. Do we want to link to that, or do we just want to take my word for it?
I mean, you can provide links if you'd like. Either works for me. I guess, yeah, there are aggressive people. I mean, I guess people are more inclined to be aggressive when they're around aggressive people, but
Yeah, I mean, it's saying that like a video game caused it not only shows that people playing the video game had increased aggression, but also the people around that person playing the video game felt the increased aggression and felt that they might also be affected by that aggression as well.
does it give any indication to the level of aggression?
One sec. I'm gonna post this in the mod voice chat. Oh, that is not a link. One sec. Let me do this. There we go. That's a link. Can you guys see that?
No.
If you click on, so see where there's mod voice, like where the voice we're in, and then there's open chat.
I see mod voice and help general.
When you click on the chat itself, there'll be two little buttons beside the word mod voice.
I
Yes.
click on the chat and it just pops up the three little thingamabobs.
It didn't
Okay.
come up with a text chat?
Talking head. Nope.
Oh. Okay.
There's one for open general, but
Justin, can you access it?
Yes.
yeah,
It might be because
because
it's not a mod.
yeah.
Yeah, that would probably help.
Yeah.
I can.
I found the
promote you.
option in the full screen, but messages failed to load. I don't have permissions, I don't think, to view it.
Okay, wait. Try now.
There we go.
There you go. Okay, nice. Yeah, so that's the study there. Let me see. Yeah, so I think it was this research article included 2,500 participants, so quite a big sample size.
Good sample size. Good sample size.
Yeah, 1,300 females, 1,100 males, approximately, and the ages were adults. So, I want to say, I mean, the average was 36 years old. So some might have been 20, some might have been older, but
yeah.
Yeah.
So now we're getting upbringings brought into that.
Because they're adults, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to control for that, but I mean, you do have so many people that I think that would control for itself, right?
While 900 could be a lot, I feel that's still a very small sample size for something that intricate.
It's 2,500. 2,500 participants.
Where do we see this? I see longitudinal study N980.
Uh,
Oh, I'm not in the right section. Okay, yeah, it's where it is.
you see it there now?
So there were 2,500 participants, 980 of them completed the questionnaire at time 2.
Yeah. Yeah, so they I guess 2,500 were part of the study, only 1,000 approximately filled out the survey, I guess.
The second survey.
Yeah.
And the average, what is SD?
Standard deviation.
I just wasn't sure if they had like a short form for something else. Where am I reading this? The average age of the second group is slightly older by about 4
Okay.
years.
Yeah, 39 years, right?
Yeah,
With a
it's
standard
I guess
deviation of
3 to
12.
4 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Um,
that puts the age range anywhere from 26 to 50.
Sure. Wait. Oh, yeah, the age range. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this study wanted to point out that it does not show that repeatedly playing violent video games leads to long-term changes in aggression.
Mm.
It's only showing that it increases short-term aggression.
Now that I think I actually do agree with,
Okay.
which I know might be a little antithesizing to my. No, I think that falls in line with my previous statement. I think that makes sense. You know, if you play a game like Call of Duty or something and you get really into it, or play anything, honestly, sports, anything, and that you're really interested in, you really get kind of entranced into, and then you know you get really excited, you can get a little aggressive. If it doesn't go very well, you get frustrated, and then you stop, and maybe you'll be kind of frustrated and annoyed and a little bit more aggressive for, I don't know, like a couple hours afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I think that still falls in line with. I don't think that would contribute to lasting
aggression. Okay, so yeah, so you're saying for a little while afterwards, you might feel aggressive, but okay. So all right, sorry, what were you gonna say?
Oh, it's just you go with your thing. Mine's semi-unrelated.
Like
Still
unrelated
about
to the study, or
still related to the study,
okay,
unrelated to what you're saying right now.
okay, that's all right. You go, because I was gonna move on to something else.
I'm looking in the procedures and measures, and one of the questions they asked is, have spread gossip about people I don't like, is one of the questions they asked for physical and relational aggression.
Okay, so that would be relational aggression.
So, if we are saying aggression is saying things about other people, because it just says gossip,
Yeah.
which can be anything really. Because like gossip is just talking about someone behind their back.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm not sure how violent video games would.
Like I'd have to know what they defined as gossip. Like if it's, oh, I heard this person slept with another person, I wouldn't associate that with a violent video game.
No, but if
I'd associate...
if I hate that person, or if that, you know, like if it's like a violent comment, like
yeah, so I feel
piece of garbage, I hate that person, like that kind of thing, right?
Obviously I haven't read the whole study, so I don't know where all the questions are if they show them, but it would be interesting to see what types of questions they asked and how they determined an aggressiveness based off of that.
It would be, yeah, because I mean, usually with studies, because like we're not you know, spending our lives learning about this kind of thing, it's good to go with the conclusion of the scientist doing the study. But I understand what you're saying, that the questions might be something that we wouldn't consider violent, that the scientists do consider violent, right? So they might have a different definition of, or threshold.
Yeah, that's where I'm
consider.
Trying to like find out where some discrepancies might lie.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And in different people's, like, again, like you say, scientists versus us.
Mm-hmm.
So interestingly enough, sorry, one of the articles that I found references another article by one of the creators of this article.
Oh, really?
that you
Interesting.
found, yeah.
Okay. Do you want to
And
present your article?
sure, I'll send a link to it.
Right.
And with that, if you scroll down to the discussion section, they reference that, and granted, it seems to be a significantly smaller sample size, but in the discussion, the first paragraph of this discussion, uh, starting at the 9th line, the sentence that starts at the end of that. In
The
fact,
first
only
paragraph?
the first paragraph of the discussion.
Yeah. Ninth line.
9th line down, yeah. So at the sentence starts at the end of that. In fact, only 3 tests of the 208 statistical tests performed showed a significant interaction pattern that would be in line with the hypothesis.
Right. Which the hypothesis, I'm assuming, was
Being-
that they increase aggression.
The hypothesis, the hypothesis, as I'm assuming from the title, does playing violent video games cause aggression?
Okay.
So this study, I believe, from what I've understood, which could be incorrect, is stating that they do not believe that they would cause aggression.
Okay. And is this a review? What is this? Longitudinal intervention study. Okay. Interesting.
And this is just a separate study that referenced one.
69 citations.
Hmm.
Okay. Do you
Reference number
did you
5.
read anything else about this study? Like, can you summarize it, or?
I think the abstract probably does a better job at summarizing it than I could.
Okay.
Would you like me to read the abstract?
Sure, if you would like.
It is a widespread concern that video games promote aggression, reduce pro-social behavior, increase impulsivity, and interfere with cognition, as well as mood in its players. Previous experimental studies have focused on short-term effects of violent video gameplay on aggression, yet there are no reasons to believe that these effects are mostly the result of priming.
Priming. Actually, I did read this study. I think I actually I quoted this study. Sorry.
Hey, there you
Continue.
go. In contrast, the present study is the first to investigate the effects of long-term violent video gameplay, using a large battery of tests spanning questionnaires, behavioral measures of aggression, sexist attitudes, empathy, and interpersonal competencies. Impulsivity-related constructs such as sensitive sensation-seeking, boredom proneness, risk-taking, delay discounting, mental health, depressivity, anxiety, as well as executive function control functions before and after 2 months of gameplay. Our participants played the violent video game called Grand Theft Auto 5, the non-violent video game called The Sims 3, or no game at all for 2 months on a daily basis. No significant changes were observed, neither when comparing the group playing a violent video game to the group playing a non-violent video game, nor to a passive control group. Also, no effects were observed between baseline and post-test directly after the intervention, nor between baseline and a follow-up assessment 2 months after the intervention period had ended. The present results thus provide strong evidence against the frequently debated negative effects of playing violent video games in adults, and will therefore help to communicate a more realistic scientific perspective on the effects of violent video games.
Okay. Thank you for reading that.
Yeah, of course, of course. So I guess just it's like a preface. This and probably most of the articles that we find are going to be related to adults.
Yeah.
It's probably quite difficult to get the relevant data to decide whether a child's development could be changed.
Yeah,
Do you know what I
yeah.
mean?
Actually, I found the exact same thing when I was looking. It's mostly related to adults, which I think adults, like I said, are much less impacted by that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, this study. So I did read it and I was looking at it, but the issue is I decided not to include it in my
Yeah, of course.
because it's only 2 months of playing video games on a daily basis. Like, that's not very long, compared to, like, if you think about, like, us, for example.
Yeah.
Like playing video games our whole lives. Like, Just taking some people and throwing them in playing video games for 2 months. I don't know if
I
that's
think
long enough.
I think it's definitely not like an overly long time, but it's difficult to run a test, run an experiment for like a year, for example. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, yeah.
Um, with something like this, I would believe because it's difficult to contribute whether or not any aggressive changes could be from outside sources or just from the video games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if it was like I think 2 months gives us an all right like a semi acceptable baseline. Like because I think they if looking at the I'm sorry I didn't mean to interrupt by the way.
Oh no, that's fine.
Just
Go ahead.
looking at the methods, I don't understand all of the things that they're saying here, but in the methods and results, they talk a lot about the different tests that they used. So I think they were looking for kind of, from my understanding, just any measurable, like any like kind of semi-significant measurable difference,
Uh huh.
which I'm assuming they would understand, like they would take into the fact that they had 2 months, so they wouldn't be looking for like drastic changes in personality. They're not expecting somebody to go from like pacifist to like I'm gonna go fight in a war kind of thing after 2 months. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think, I mean, a lot of it I feel like comes down to what you find cool or identify with. Um, so like going and fighting in a war, I don't feel like a lot of people find that appealing. Like,
Yeah, no, that was just like a what I was just thinking like what's a violent thing? Uh
yeah,
War.
true, yeah. Um,
I
but
want to go to war.
being like a gangster, having hoes, you know, knifing someone on the street. Okay, no, maybe thinking of Grand
I
Theft
think
Auto.
that's a little drastic.
Yeah, it's a little drastic, but like those all those things are associated with each other in those games, right? So like you're playing Grand
Yeah.
Theft Auto and you have the cool stuff, you have the money, the house, the hose, but then like you also do the violent acts at the same time. So you like that's like an association thing, right?
That's fair. That's fair.
Um, but yeah, I mean that's fair. I like I don't know if the 2 months is enough, but I do acknowledge this study. Like I did read through it, and I do acknowledge that it didn't find a correlation. I guess the burden of proof is on me, right? So there might be a multitude of studies that show that there wasn't a correlation, right? There's never going to be something beyond that, right? Like you're in the middle. I am pushing towards the
Yeah, I mean,
does
if
cause
you
aggression,
dig
right?
if you dig long enough, you can find proof of anything.
Yeah, true.
I mean, you dig long enough, you can find proof that vaccines can kill your baby. You know what I mean? Dig long enough, you could. If I really wanted to, I'm sure if I could dig long enough to find a proof that drinking water was unhealthy.
I mean, maybe what I don't think you can find proof for those things. I think you can
Well,
maybe find something.
proof being subjective, like a
Yeah,
subject.
yeah, but
Like
it's
I
not
could find corroborating evidence.
right. But it's not that I only have like I found the two articles on the internet that
No, no,
show
no.
a
That's sorry. That's
correlation,
not what
right?
I'm trying to say. That's not what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say at all.
Um, let me see here.
I'm trying. Yeah, no, sorry. I was just trying to say like this is like obviously just a friendly discussion.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. So like it's okay if we don't come to any hard conclusions.
I'm sure we won't, but yeah, we're kind of just looking over the
Yeah.
evidence. Let me bring this up here real quick because when we're talking about like how much evidence to either side, like I don't even know if there's more studies showing that there is no correlation than there is. I don't think that's true because I have an
Yeah.
article here that shows that the body of evidence does show a correlation.
Yeah, I'm not entirely certain of where the majority falls.
Yeah, let me.
I do know that public opinion was certainly quite biased for
Of
the first
course, yeah.
I don't know, let's say probably 20 years of video games being pop culture. I mean, like with the ESRB ratings when they first came out and such too, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody agreed that video games are violent, and I think it's just kind of more recently in the last decade and a half ish that people have really started,
Doing real
being like,
studies.
hey, wait a minute,
Yeah.
I play video games as a child and I don't want to kill anybody.
Yeah, I know, but I feel like a lot of a lot of this comes down to an emotional argument. It's like, yeah,
It
anecdotally,
does.
sure, like, yeah, I don't want to kill people, like, and you don't want to kill people, and maybe nobody around you
How do
wants
you
to kill
know?
people.
I'm kidding, I don't.
Well, okay, you just said that.
Yeah.
And maybe nobody around you wants to kill people, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't cause it generally, right? Like, what if you
Yeah.
know the only 50 people on Earth that didn't get like, right? Like, so that doesn't
Yeah,
necessarily.
I know the only people on the planet that don't want to kill everybody. Yeah, no.
Yeah, exactly.
I do understand the point you're making. I agree with the point that you're making.
Yeah. Let me see here. So, I just posted a link in the chat.
Yep. Science Direct.
Yes.
Violent video game. What a title.
So this is just an overview, so it's kind of just taking bits and pieces from different, like there's a lot of different articles here, but look at the playing violent video games 5.4.7 personality and behavioral factors. It's
By
on
Lee
the right.
Ellis, Anthony W. Hoskin in
Yes.
the Handbook of Crime Correlates.
Yes. So scroll down to the bottom paragraph there, just before like the table.
The one that starts with table of 5.7 provides a summary. That
Yes. So it says table 5.4.7 provides a summary of findings regarding playing violent video games and offending behavior, so criminality basically, broadly defined. As one can see, results are mixed regarding any statistically significant associations between either criminality or more general aggression and violent video game playing, although most studies point towards a positive relationship. Right, so it's saying that more studies point towards there being at least some correlation rather than no correlation, right?
I would be interested to find out more about this article because it sounds like, and I could be wrong just from like the little excerpt, it sounds like they did studies on criminals to see if they played these video games. I could be wrong. I could be inferring incorrectly.
It could be.
And I think if that's what like the criteria was, like if you look for smoke, you're gonna find fire. Which I'd be
Yeah.
a
Wait.
little interested. I'm not trying to like shut down your source, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be interested to figure out more about that study because it does sound interesting. Obviously,
Yeah.
probably good. Probably a great
Yeah,
study.
I mean, we can look into it more, or you can look into it later, or something like that.
Yeah, I'm looking around a little bit.
Yeah. But I think.
Sorry to interrupt and cut off you when you were making a point. I will listen.
No, that's okay. Yeah, I would be curious. Experimental data on a relationship between playing violent video games and aggression. Clinical indicators, self-reported data. Yeah, so I'm not exactly sure. Like, I didn't have time to read through all of this. Like, there was a lot here.
Yeah.
We
We have jobs.
yeah, we
I
do,
get it.
yes.
We have things that we must
Yeah.
do. We did our best.
I tried to pick out as much good information as I could, but
Yeah, of course.
but yes, if it is just on criminals, then yeah, of course, like some criminals are going to have played video games. Probably a lot of criminals have played video games. I mean,
Very,
almost everybody
very
has played
fun.
video games at some point in their life, right?
Yeah.
So if that is the case, but I feel like, if you're doing a study, chances are you're going to control a little better
Probably.
than that.
Probably, yes. One would hope.
Yeah. I feel like they would have some level of information gathering, beyond that.
Yeah. I'm sure they do. Yeah, no, I definitely was not trying to like attack the study itself.
Yeah. Okay.
I realized after I spoke that that is 100% what it sounded like.
No, I mean that's fine. Well, I mean you can attack the study, like if you think that it's not a valid study, that's fine.
Yeah, but that's not a good way to do a discussion. Because then it just evolves into, well,
No, your
mine,
study's wrong.
yeah. Well, no, yours is wrong.
Yeah.
Well, this guy did yours. Well, this guy did yours. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you
And
see
then,
like something in the study specifically that you think was not, because I don't know if it was on criminals like that. If you see that that's the case, then I could probably agree with you.
yeah, no, it's difficult to read to figure out without reading the whole study, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I think probably stress interactivity. Yeah. So probably I want to go into. Do you know what priming is? Either of you?
I do not.
So priming is a phenomenon which sorry, I'm going to read the definition here. So priming is a phenomenon in which exposure to one stimulus influences how a person responds to subsequent related stimulus. These stimuli are often conceptually related words or images. Priming can cause an automatic response an automatic response to things without a person even realizing their cognitive bias.
Okay, so like, yeah, I looked up a little definition as well.
Yeah.
While you're reading, so like, I guess that would be like if you were talking about guns and then showed somebody an ink blot and they saw a gun, kind of thing.
Yes, yeah, that is an example. And there's other, like the one I have, for example, like, you know, how some people don't like certain kinds of people. I'm sure you're aware of that.
Oh yes, I don't like lots of people.
So like, for example, if you had like a Japanese woman, and every time you've only met 2 Japanese women in your life, and each time that person stole from you, right? You're now going to never trust another Japanese woman again. Because
extreme example.
It's an extreme example, but it's true. Like,
Yeah.
this happens all
Yeah,
the
no, yeah.
time. Like, people have biases against all kinds of different types of people because those types of people have done bad things to them, right?
Yeah.
That's why.
I mean, I get it.
Yeah, that's why, like, women, you know, have they have 1 traumatic or 2 traumatic experiences with men of a certain age, and then every man of a certain age beyond that, you know, triggers them, and they, you know, stuff
I mean,
like
to
that,
be
right?
fair, I have had interactions with people that have caused me to exhibit biases.
Yeah. Well, then you understand. Perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, not good. I'm.
I think just sort of quickly on that topic, I think that's like an important part of maturing as an adult is realizing when you have those biases and
Not
being able
acting on them.
to, yeah, exactly, like say, and this I'm just using a random uh example. Say, for example, every person I ever met named Quentin was just a huge terrible person. And then I met somebody named
True.
Quentin, and I would no. But yeah, but yeah, like if for some reason something like that, and then I would just, I think part of maturing would be like, oh hey, that's another Quentin. I don't like Quentins. Oh wait, but that's not entirely true. I don't know this new person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
just sorry to interrupt. Just to like,
No, I mean, I just wanted to make sure that like you guys understood the
yeah,
you know, the definition and how it can be used and things like that.
yeah,
Um,
definitely, yeah. Help that helped my understanding. That did
yeah.
help my comprehension. That little
So
example.
like with video games, if you like, this is going back mostly to kids again, because adults, like, hopefully adults
Mm,
realize their biases more. So that definitely isn't always true. Definitely there's a lot of
definitely.
adults that still don't realize that they, you know, just can't stand a certain type of person
Yeah,
because of whatever.
I work with many of them.
Yeah. But with video games, like, I feel like that could be a factor in that, as a child especially. It similar to what I was talking about, like with Assassin's Creed, is it's almost like priming you to react a certain way, or to act when you're angry in a certain way. If you see that being acted out and you're playing the game, because video games are interactive, right? Like, movies aren't interactive, so you can watch it more passively. generally your blood pressure isn't getting elevated while you're watching a movie.
Or you aren't enjoying movies.
Yeah, at least not to the same degree, and you don't have the same emotional stakes as you do in a video game, right?
Yeah.
So like you're playing a multiplayer video game and your friend cheats, or maybe not your friend, maybe some person, some hacker, in Minecraft or something cheats, and then you get triggered, you get upset, you throw a controller, blah blah blah. You might have that same reaction to, let's say you're playing Monopoly with your friends, and somebody cheats. You might have the same reaction then because of
I throw hands over Monopoly.
yeah. Yeah.
Punch her right in the face.
Do it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like
I understand. Yeah, no, I understand the point that you're making though. Like, so with the Assassin's Creed and Children example, going forward with that. So you're saying like because it's associated with, like cool and like you're enjoying this, you think it's cool and fun and stuff, that it's less like you when you're a child, you're growing up and you're like, man, like this is a bad person, you should die. Is that kind of what you're trying to say? Like, am I misinterpreting your point here?
Yeah, it could be, yeah. Like if you're faced with something that somebody who's being aggressive to you, we could go with that example. Like if somebody's being aggressive to you, on the playground, for example, and you see somebody who's somebody in the video game you're playing is like somebody with a sword, let's say, who's like counter-attacking, punching, slashing, whatever, to people who are showing aggression. That can be your way of dealing with conflict with people who are showing aggression towards you. Would be to act in a similar way to what you see and what you play as in the games, right?
Yeah. Okay, I understand I understand your I understand I am comprehending your point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you agree?
To a point, I think still, like, even like as a child, like there was like a, man, I want to beat this guy up. I think a lot of those thoughts personally were hormonally charged decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Just with growing up and such, right?
But that's a factor for everybody when they're growing up.
Exactly.
Right? So it would.
Yeah. And I didn't try to stab anybody in the face.
Sure.
Despite thoughts, despite however frustrated some people got me, and however if that thought had ever occurred, I don't think that video games necessarily would have. I don't think that video games contributed to those thoughts.
You don't think so?
You know what I mean? I think that, say somebody just absolutely drove me nuts as a child and made me very frustrated and angry quite frequently.
Yeah.
I don't think that video games themselves caused me to have the thought like, I want to beat the crap out of that person. I think that I would have had those thoughts regardless. You know what I mean?
Maybe, but maybe the way that you would have done it is different. I think it may affect the way you would go about it. Like, for example, when I was a kid, like, I loved, like, sword fighting, like with sticks, like stick fighting, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Super fun.
Yeah, super fun. Yeah, it's good. But also, I think the reason that I like that so much is because I played games with people who just fought with swords, or like, played Lego Star Wars. Like, I played that a lot.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, right? So the lightsabers and things like that. Yeah. So, but it also, like, it's happened. I've done this in the past, like, where people did piss me off, and I would hit them with sticks, like, and I would act in a similar way. Like, I don't know if I'm like autistic or something. I have no idea, but I feel like this is a common experience. I don't believe that I'm that far off of other people.
No, I don't think so.
I think that other people do experience, they see things, they see ways people act and deal with conflict, and then they act in a similar way. Like if you look at, kids who grow up with violent fathers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and a lot of those kids end up growing up as a bully. They end up pushing, shoving, because that's what they see, right? They see somebody
Yeah.
doing that.
I think I can. I think I agree with your statement that, while perhaps the thought wasn't generated because of the video game, the method was. Does that sentence make sense?
Could you say it again?
Yeah. Okay. So I think I agree with you. That so while perhaps video games didn't make me think, hey, that person's making me really angry and I want to punch them in the face, I want to do violent act.
Yeah.
Video games may have influenced the specific act I would have thought of.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think I would have acted. I obviously I didn't act on any of those thoughts, really. And I don't think. I mean, I played a lot of violent video games and I didn't react on them. I don't think that video games would make it more likely for somebody to react either.
Okay. Interesting.
But I do agree that video games may influence the actions people might think of.
Yeah, that is true. So if we agree on that's good.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like it's potentially the issue is that it's difficult to admit that they might have an impact because we do play video games. Like for me, I like playing video games. I also admit that they have made me more violent or aspire to do certain things that are more questionable probably. And maybe I would have had some thoughts like that in anyway, but I think that a lot of the specific acts, like they give you a lot of ideas.
They do.
Yeah.
I will concede that. Their video games are very creative, which is a good thing and a bad thing, because that can also help foster, artistic creativity.
Mm-hmm.
And other forms of creativity that are positive.
Yeah. And I want to make sure we're not like conflating non-violent video games, right? Like I don't think Wii Sports is bad. I don't think that like The Sims is bad unless you're drowning your Sims in a pool,
I think we've all done that at least once.
Yeah, I definitely have.
Sometimes they just, for whatever reason, they don't want to marry the person you want them to marry. They got to go away.
You just gotta suicide them.
Exactly. But on a serious note, I do agree with that. I do partially agree with that statement.
That it's difficult for us to admit that video games can cause. Yeah.
We are definitely a little bit biased, so it definitely can be difficult. I'm trying to be impartial with my discussion. Obviously,
something
though, I do have personal biases.
Exactly. It's something we have a personal connection to, and we've done our entire lives. So it's like, yeah, it would be very hard to admit that. But
yeah, I know personally, I'm much less aggressive than I was as a teenager, and I still play video games just as frequently, if not more. But I'm also an adult now. And I recognize that I, am an adult and have adult things that I must do and responsibilities. And I understand how, my brain works a bit more and how to regulate my emotions better, as I think most adults do, compared to when they were children. I'm rambling a little bit here. Feel free to cut in.
No, that's okay. Justin, do you have anything to add?
No.
Okay.
Riveting.
Very good. What do you think of the conversation so far?
I got lost.
Okay.
You guys were like, I was thinking of things and I didn't want to interrupt because I was like, I'll let them finish, and then you guys kept going, and I don't mind that. I just kind of.
Nah, dude, interrupt us because like
Yeah.
we're doing kind of a show right now, so we're trying to fill the time.
Hmm.
So we're gonna keep talking. So you have to kind of like
Yeah, as
butt
long
in a little
yeah,
bit, right?
yeah. I think we've been pretty polite about not speaking over each other and stuff. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, if you have like a thing you would like to speak, do the speaking.
Um. I don't know. I mean, I could present other things that they could test for with these um studies
Okay.
as
Uh,
to.
yeah, we can go into the studies a little more if we want to. I'm not sure how much longer we can go though. We do have Clash soon.
Yeah, we do have a time limit.
Wow, abandoning me.
Well, I mean, let's see. Uh, okay, so there is one more study that I kind of
Wanted to point out.
wanted to point out something.
All right,
Uh,
patter,
showing the menus.
pitter patter.
So
Okay.
there's a study that I was looking at as to why people play violent video games, specifically violent ones, and because over 90% of video games are violent, right?
I don't. I can't refute that statistic.
That's from what the study was showing. 90% of
Okay.
yeah. Uh, so yeah, this one is as to why. So apparently it's for the same purpose for both genders, like male and female, right?
Hmm.
Um, but the main reason for men is to use it as a proxy for violence in the real world. Because violent video games often give like a competitive aspect, and an aggressive aspect. So because the reason is violent video games and not just video games that most most games are is because of the violent aspect. So it's like a proxy for violence in the real world. It's a way that we can
I can understand that at times. Yeah.
yeah, it's a way we can get that scratch that itch kind of without actually doing violence, right?
Yeah.
um,
Without actually scratching. Yeah.
yeah, so like men play it to basically dominate other men in a non-sexual way. No, in
I mean,
yeah, basically dominate other men and try to promote themselves as a mate, as a potential mate. So they're trying to increase their mating value by being the superior man, essentially.
who are they trying to increase it to?
Trying to well, I mean, if you're less
Yeah.
attractive,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. I do. I do.
yeah. So basically, instead of fighting physically for dominance, we're fighting in a virtual ground for dominance in the similar way. So that same kind of animalistic urge is being expressed in a virtual world rather than the real
A
world.
more acceptable and not permanently harming
Damaging.
way.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I can
yeah.
see that to an extent. That I think that definitely has more sway over perhaps teenage boys who are, because I can't speak. I obviously can't speak very well to the experiences of a teenage girl. But I think that has some sway over how a teenage boy might perceive certain things while they're playing video games. You know,
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure out who they are as a person and all that jazz. And they're like, this thing is good and I like punching things, but don't want to punch people.
Yeah. Well, you have to remember that not all this is like reasoned out. Like most of these
Yeah.
things are subconscious. Not like people aren't making
No,
decisions.
yeah, exactly.
to
Yeah,
do
no,
these
I'm not
things.
speaking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Agreement. Agreement.
What do you think about that, Justin?
Hi.
Hi. Did you hear?
I missed some of that. I was talking with someone.
Oh. we were just talking about how like this study shows that video games are like a proxy for violence in the real world for men.
Okay.
So they use it to dominate other men essentially, to increase their mating value, so attractiveness to females. So this study basically showed a correlation between men who dominated at video games and their likelihood of going out and finding a girl shortly after. Yeah, that's how they kind of correlated those two things.
That's an interesting like thing to look for, I guess. Like an interesting study.
I think that I definitely think that
Like I
holds
feel
a bit
there's
more
truth to it.
sway when you're coming into yourself in adolescence.
Mhm.
When you're trying to figure out, who and what kind of person you are.
Mhm.
And like you're trying you
You cut out a little bit there, Liam.
Hmm?
You cut out there.
Oh, sorry. But yeah, well, like basically everything you're doing in adolescence is like I want people to like me, and I want people of my preferred sex to find me attractive, and this makes me feel confident, and that makes me feel attractive.
Yeah,
So I'm
confidence
agreeing with you.
increases attraction.
I would like to think that kind of feeling peters out more when people become adults, but I don't think that's entirely true.
Yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily true because what is the reason that adults do things that are difficult or do things that that people find impressive, right? Or that you feel good about doing, like accomplishments, right? Like why do you accomplish things? I would argue that it's mostly for what other people can see that you have done. That's what most people probably do things for.
I think that is a much more personal thing. I know people who definitely do accomplishments solely for the recognition of others, of like, hey, you did the thing. Look at that.
Yeah.
And I know people who definitely do things more for their own personal feeling of completion and gratitude. Like, hey, I did the thing, and I don't really care if anybody else knows that, but I did it, and I know I did it.
Yeah, but don't you think that it's also like even if that's the case, even if like I've been through this, right? Like because don't really share my accomplishments that much. It I still have come to realize that the reason that I do those things is so that if I needed to, I could just unload all the things that I've accomplished, right? And it's like it's something that you can keep to yourself and feel good about keeping to yourself. But if I needed to, if the situation arose, if I needed to impress somebody, I have these things that I've done that I could say to them that would make them be like, oh, nice. At least. I don't really believe that people do things in a vacuum only for themselves.
I think to a point, I think it's hard to generalize because there's also a point where it depends on what the thing is. Do you know what I mean?
Maybe you'd have to say.
Like, depending on what the achievement that they're achieving is specifically, like, hey, I just beat my, I don't know, I'm having trouble thinking of any, I'm having trouble thinking of examples.
I just got all the achievements in Terraria.
Nice. Yeah, sure, yeah, there. I don't think I would go around bragging about that per se, but that would definitely be like a nice go me thing.
It
I
would
don't
be
think
a
that
go you thing. You wouldn't go around bragging about it, but don't you think
Hmm.
that having done that, now you're more confident because if somebody were to ask you or bring up Terraria or be like, hey, I just got this achievement in Terraria, and you can be like, either you can know to yourself that you have done it, or you can say it and that way, you know, you'd seem like a formidable person in that area, right? Like,
That's fair. That's fair. I think using this example, I'd like to think that I would just be like, "Hey, yeah, I also like that thing." And then I also enjoy that video game. Let's talk more about it, or maybe play it sometime, or like here's a discussion point where we can connect more as other people, and instead of like trying to brag about it, or be like, yeah,
yeah,
you know what I'm trying to get at.
yes, I
The
understand.
words aren't
I,
word
I,
and what.
I feel like, yeah, we're getting a little bit caught up between like the difference between bragging and yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
Because like you're saying you should keep it to yourself so that you're not bragging, but it's like, but our natural inclination is to brag. Like, yeah, I can understand that, but
yeah,
like,
yeah. I can attest to that. There's definitely a natural urge to want to boast about your accomplishments.
yeah, and not that you should. It's just you still have that urge to accomplish those things so that you have the ability to brag. Like I think it's like an innate feeling that people have that they want to accomplish things so that they can be impressive even if they are not telling anybody about their impressiveness,
Hmm.
right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
uh
Yeah. If having gaining accomplishments definitely does help, even just personal uh pride.
yeah, okay, so there we go. So now that we've said that, um when you're having a competition with other people in a video game, and you feel more confident because you just destroyed everybody, you're more likely to, this study is showing that you're more likely to go out and find a mate. You don't have to tell that person about that. You don't have to tell that girl about that, but you feel more confident, you feel more accomplished, you feel dominant, you feel good, right?
Yeah, I guess I can agree with that. Like like anything that gives confidence makes you feel better about yourself, and that makes you want to go out and like continue that feeling. Like I feel great about myself. I'm going to go and talk to people and garner interest from others. I'm
Yes.
agreeing with you.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm just saying, but it, with video games in particular, as a difference between, like, let's say skateboarding, um it's a violent media that you are specifically competing against other men in a violent suit, not violent, like pseudo violent, I guess, way. um so I think that could contribute to,
Yeah,
I'm not even sure it necessarily, like, I don't know, but I feel like it could contribute towards violence in the real world as well, if you have that uh competitive media.
I'm not sure if it could. I'm not sure if I would say that the majority of people would transfer that feeling to real world violence. I could definitely see it happening. I I'd like to believe that that would be like a minority reaction.
Yeah, it probably is a minority reaction. I'm not saying this does this in everybody. Obviously, it doesn't do it in everybody, or this would be like an epidemic. you know, like, we would be blaming all violence on video games at that point, right? This is not that cut and dry. This is a very, like, probably minor thing. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah. Anyway,
yeah,
I think we've probably gone through just about everything that I had.
yeah. We're talking a little in circles, which is kind of my fault.
Um, I mean, not necessarily. I feel like we did all right on the last.
True.
Like, we went through a few different points throughout this.
We definitely did. It was a very nice, productive conversation.
Yeah, I think so. Um. All right. Do we have any changed minds? Um. here, or did anybody update what they were thinking?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't feel different.
No, I mean like any of
That's
the
your
things we
question.
talked about. Did you come in thinking one thing and are now thinking a different thing?
No,
Okay.
I think my thinking's still the same as it was.
Okay. Um. Yeah. All right. Well.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't. I
Yeah.
think. Yeah. But no, no, that sounded very harsh. Uh, I think that it was a very good conversation. I think that while I still feel that video games don't cause violence in adults, violence, video games don't cause benchmark don't cause violence.
Yeah.
Um, they. I think we definitely touched on a lot of really good points.
Hmm. I
Yeah.
do feel you've been convinced a little bit through the childhood stuff. I feel like at the beginning you weren't like you didn't think there
I
was
can
any.
definitely I can definitely see while video games might not cause violent reactions, they may direct them somewhat occasionally.
Okay. That's good enough for me. Yeah, and like looking at the thing that you provided, I think yeah, I'm not sure it's a big issue. I don't think it's a huge issue, but I think it's something that we need to keep in mind. And that was basically my point. Anyway, was not that we should stop playing video games or stop kids from playing video games, but rather like teach them as parents or whatever teachers,
Yeah.
that these can have an impact. Like because you're playing this game, you might feel certain ways when you're interacting with other people. Just keep in mind that this game is not real life, and this is not how we act in real life.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good point for pretty much anything that kids do is they just need to have at least some form of supervision. Not like over the shoulder helicopter supervision, but like an adult should be aware of what the child is doing so that they can help them make the correct decisions.
Yeah, exactly. Prepare them for things that can impact them that they're not prepared, like that.
Yes.
Yeah, that they're not already ready for. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Ah, that was very loud. Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Cool. Well, yeah. I guess that's the end of the conversation then. So I'll say thank you guys for coming, and anybody who tuned into the stream, thank you for watching. And yeah, we might do more of this at some point.
Yeah,
But,
that would be fun.
yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I'll see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye bye.